Hi, I'm Matt Hinsley, Executive Director of Austin Classical Guitar, and I am here with Tim League, the founder and Executive Chairman of Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas, and Joe Williams, our Artistic Director at Austin Classical Guitar. We hope you loved watching Alfred Hitchcock's 1927 masterpiece, The Lodger, and we are going to talk just a little bit about what you just experienced. We're going to talk about the film, and in particular, we're going to talk about the new music that was created for it. And maybe, Tim, you want to start with a few thoughts about The Lodger itself?
Sure. So this is Alfred Hitchcock's third film, but a lot of people say this is where it began. Like this basically spawned the rest of his career and spawned almost the thriller genre in American cinema. And so he was deeply influenced by Murnau and by Fritz Lang and the German expressionist filmmakers, and you can see it. Like it's visually stunning. There's so much was kind of invented in terms of the language of film from this. And I think people think about Hitchcock and they think about much later films. They think about Rope and Rear Window and some of the more golden era classics. But a lot of that happened here, and it happened when he was, I think, 27, 28 years old.
Whoa.
And the interesting thing is this movie was made, and the studio that financed it, he turned it in, and they were furious. This is like nothing they had seen, and they hated it. And they hired somebody to kind of rework it. But that guy was so enamored by what he saw that he barely touched it. He just was a really good politician. He changed the title cards, but kept the core of it. There was another sort of frustrating bit for Alfred Hitchcock that they demanded some changes. And I'm not going to sort of go into the details, but it's about the nebulous nature of the end and who the lodger is. Years later in the 40s, he really wanted to remake this film and get it right. And he did it as a radio play, but then he wanted to do a feature film and have the more nebulous nature of the ending, but couldn't get the rights. So it was the Hitchcock film that never was. But it's hugely influential, this film. And if you're a Hitchcock fan and you haven't seen this, then shame on you.
And he shows up in this film at some point.
He always shows up.
This is a cameo? Is this the first cameo?
I have not seen the earlier two films, so I can't say if this is his first cameo, but it's certainly a long-standing tradition of the man of wanting to make his funny little cameos. So.
Fantastic. Well, we are here because this film is amazing, and also because we have released it here with a lush, evocative, powerful, arresting new film score that you created, Joe. And you created this film score for 4 guitars and cello, and I love it so much. But I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about the music that you made for this film.
Well, first of all, it's so unlikely that this would actually exist. I'm still kind of pinch myself 7 years later that we did this. We started in 2015 and really came out of an idea of you two, which was let's just do something really, really cool. And I thought, wow, this is unbelievable when you asked me to do this. Just dived into this film and was so blown away in all the ways that you just described, Tim. This is just a great movie. And so filled with drama and beauty and confusion and a portal into 1927 London. You see the fog in that place. And so for me coming to this film, I had never done a film score before. And it was just so cool that I had to say yes. And I was so encouraged and inspired by the movie. I mean, really, it was wonderful to come to this thing that was a masterpiece unto itself. Watch it without any sound whatsoever, which is a strange thing to do with a silent movie, and just dive into the layers of story, to dive into this mysterious stranger, this beautiful dancer showgirl, and the parents who are terrified for their daughter, and really distrusting of this mysterious lodger. so it's fascinating to come to this from a music perspective. Most of my experience has been writing classical music for the stage, and to get to have a shape, such a perfect dramatic narrative over that space to match and to come to with music. Whoa, it was incredible.
And we hear themes for different things, different characters, different emotions. I mean, you set an incredible mood throughout that changes with the light and with the action. It's so much richness that comes to us through the music that you created.
Well, I thank you for saying that, Matt. It was because I didn't know at all what I was doing. I literally sat down. I mean, I watched the movie many times, and now hundreds of times. And just like watched and said, well, this is happening. And I made this big giant list of like what's happening on screen. And my music is motivic and really symbolic. And so it kind of fit to follow a path of themes and say, well, this is Daisy. And like watching her and trying to listen for that melody that was Daisy over and over, finding it.
Did you ever listen to any other scores that have been done for the Lodger? Do you always watch it silently?
I watched probably like 15 seconds when I first started. I was like, nope, I can't do this. I can't do this because it will totally change me. So I didn't listen to anybody else until after we premiered it. And then I only listened to about a minute and a half.
Wow. Tim, this isn't the first time we've done this. We have also worked together on The Unknown, which we love, sort of a Lon Chaney senior thriller. And why'd you want to work with us? Why do you think about new music for silent films? Can you talk a little bit about silent film in general and your relationships?
Sure. Lots of angles there, but I'm going to go back to when we had opened up our first theater. And I was 25, and I was arrogant and stupid. And that's why we opened the theater in the first place, right? But I was also arrogant and stupid about my understanding of film. And I didn't study film. I just was a fan. I just loved movies. And we got approached by a group in Bakersfield, where our first theater was, to do this steam train film festival, which really didn't work. Nobody came. But we got one of the guys I was working with said, "Oh, we have to show Buster Keaton's The General." And I remember in embarrassment, like saying, "Corny silent film, seen it, I know everything, right?" And then I watched that movie, and I was filled with self-loathing. Wow. For having the arrogance to be dismissive about that movie. And I now consider that movie to be my favorite movie of all time. Oh, wow. Mainly because so much of comedy was invented by the time the 20s were done. He was such a sophisticated comedian. He was so brilliant, so subtle. And that movie absolutely holds up. And I think that started this trajectory of wanting to expose younger audiences to silent film. And we did it with a bunch of punk bands in Austin early on. We did Metropolis with ST-37s, the first one we did. And then most significantly probably is, I think our third film was with Graham Reynolds. He did a score for Battleship Potemkin. And I was a massive fan of Golden Arm Trio, would see him a bunch of times. I remember asking him at Emos after a show, it's like, "Hey, would you ever consider doing this? I can recommend some movies." And he did it, and he came in blind, just, hadn't done anything like that before. And it changed his career. He became a film composer because he loved the process so much. But he also brought his young audience, and Brown Hornet did a couple of incredible scores for us. And so I just think it's exciting because the movies are spectacular and visually arresting and sophisticated. And I think people often will just see a clip on YouTube, and sometimes at the wrong frame rate, and it's going too fast, and it's just it looks comical, and I don't know. It's an amazing, important part of film history, and more people should see them. And why we partnered with you, because you guys are awesome. I love everything you do.
Can we talk about frame rate, Joe? Is this okay for us to have a discussion about?
No,
no, it's not. Yeah, I saw the smile. I know there's a story.
Well, we can. Of course we can. If you remember, you shared like several movies in I think like March of 2014. And there was a Buster Keaton on there. And by the way, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. But this is like the hardest thing I could possibly imagine scoring. I was just like, nah. And so I fell in love with the Lodger. And then, so I was like, okay, let's dive into this. I started working pretty much right away because it's big. And I was working with a version that was, I think, 72 minutes long. And I had started writing all this music specific to that frame rate.
I do remember. And this was like moment by moment music matching with the action of the film, right?
Yeah. So the tempo, and it did have that sort of like, like a little poppy, funny movement to it. But I was like, well, this I didn't know anything better. And so I worked all the way through to November, and then you shared the version that we were actually going to use, which was.
I mean, we can laugh now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's so funny now.
But that one is 90 minutes long. Same film. The correct.
And the premiere was in January, or it was like late January or something.
We started rehearsals in December, and so. But it was so much better because of what you're saying, the movement of it. And even though I almost had a nervous breakdown, it was so much worth it. It was so worth it because it was better and it was the right thing to do. And so I rewrote everything at that point.
Thank you for sharing that. It's one of the fun facts of this whole process. So speaking of rehearsals and performance, we have some amazing people that perform on this, and we also have some amazing producers. Maybe share just a little bit about the players and about the process and something I would imagine most viewers of this film with this score would not guess about the production of this audio.
Yeah. So in 2015, this was designed to be performed live, as the model had been that you guys had developed. And so I knew that we were going into this. I reached out to dear friends and people I knew I could trust. I was in the Texas Guitar Quartet at this point with Isaac Bustos, Alejandro Montiel, and Jonathan Dotson. And I know their music and I know them, and I was so inspired by them. And I thought, I'm going to go into this crazy adventure. I need my closest friends. And they signed on, and we also got Beyond Saying, who's just as you just heard, just an absolutely phenomenal cellist and a great person as well, an adventurous spirit. So we did this in 2015. I remember in our rehearsals, we had like an 8-hour rehearsal the first day, just with the quartet, and all these dear friends looked at me like I was an insane person that we were going to do this, and not with just a little bit of anger. But we did it, and it was really an extraordinary thing to sit down and play this piece without stop for 90 minutes with a dancing partner of Hitchcock, and like it never messed up. We often messed up, but it never messed up, and we had that really special experience. Years later, we did another run of this in 2017, and we're smart and fortunate to have Todd Waldron and Eric Pearson record those live performances. And then in the pandemic, this really kind of revealed itself as a possibility, as something that might be released. And so I went back to those recordings, and this is what you're hearing. You're hearing a live performance on this screening, and this is due to their amazing virtuosity and also the incredible skills of Brad Sales, an audio engineer and editor and producer based out of Houston, who partnered with me over 2020 and a bit of 2021 too, to make the audio that you're hearing.
Wow, and you'd never guess it was a live performance, either because the performance is just so darn good and they're doing it live, or because it's just the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Thanks to the producers.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for having this conversation, giving us some insight into this extraordinary new release of a classic film, The Lodger by Alfred Hitchcock. Thank you for joining us and for watching. We hope you loved it, and we look forward to our next opportunity to share great music and art with you.
Where can they find out more information about Austin Classical Guitar Society?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Tim. AustinClassicalGuitar.org. We love to make the world a better place with music, and we look for every single opportunity we can find to do that with our community, with people of all ages, and through making art on the stage.